Hello and welcome to the Synergy Sanctum. This is our series focused on positive life coaching lessons with Squee the Immortal, where we aim to provide everyone with awareness and coaching that is focused on identifying your goals and your values, ensuring that the steps you take on your own adventure are aligned with that return on time that you are seeking, and sharing countless strategies focused on positive mindsets, resilience, and flourishing as a person each and every day. Let's get into today's episode. So Martin Seligman wrote this book called Learned Optimism, right? And it's basically his theory around how optimism happens and around how all of these concepts and these psychological things that are happening with your mind and your experiences and all of these things, they ultimately impact your ability to stay motivated and continue to do things or continue to buy in or continue to have hope, right? So he goes into all of these theories here, but I want to highlight one that's directly related to this idea of risk versus reward that we've been talking about. And it's this idea that as you're going about and learning, there is a risk or reward, right? So if we understand that by having this assessment of risk versus reward or fight or flight, right, is this idea that at the end of each of those paths is a potential reward or a potential risk or punishment or consequence, right? So if all of those things are things that are going to occur, then it's ultimately impacting my ability and willingness to learn. Am I motivated to learn and move past these situations? And what Martin Seligman goes into is this idea of inescapable events, right? So basically events that occur that seem completely out of your control. And if we think about when these events are likely to occur, it's probably in that moment where your comfort's being popped and you've got to decide, is this a risk to go into or is this a reward to go into, right? So it seems inescapable because I was just in control, I was just comfortable and happy, and now all of a sudden I'm being tasked with something that is making me uncomfortable. I'm potentially afraid of engaging in this, and those feelings are now going to impact my motivation to even make the decision, let alone continue on whatever path I'm choosing to go on. So what these inescapable events do is they produce you giving up, right? It's out of my control. It doesn't seem worth it for me to do this, and it could be something really important, like saving for retirement. It could be something really important like helping your kids to find their skills and passions, or helping your partner to elevate themselves, or provide a safe space for them. It could be all of these things, and it seems out of your control because you just have your own awareness and comfort to work towards. And if I feel like it's not in my control, then I might give up. I might make that decision for risk and go back to my comfort, right? Even if it's something that is important or aligned with my values, because I'm making it in this decision I'm making this decision in a state of tension and fear, right? So if I give up, then the actions seem futile, right? It doesn't seem like what I'm going to do is going to lead to this potential reward or growth or learning. All it seems like is this is completely out of my control. There's nothing I can really do here. What's the point, right? What's the point of working all the time if all of my money goes to rent, right? These things prevent you from having actions. It causes inaction, right? And your mind is yo, this isn't worth it, man. It's not worth it to engage in this. There's no return or reward here, and you're not even willing to take that step to see if the reward is there. You're making the decision that it's not there and that this is all pointless because the event seems inescapable and out of our control. So these are a ton of negative thoughts, right? And negative thoughts creep up in these states of uncertainty and these states of discomfort or the unexpected, right? Or you might be feeling depressed. You might be feeling like everything's out of your control. And all of these negative thoughts start just piling on, right? And think about what we talked about previously with the negative experiences and the 3 positive ones. This is something that's impacted by that. And if I'm just spiraling in negative thoughts, it's going to be rare that I come out of it. I'm probably going to have to go to sleep for a day and wake up and try again, right? So it's so important to have awareness of when these things are happening and how they're happening so that you can use the tools at your disposal to combat this. And one of the tools that Martin Seligman goes into in his Learned Optimism book is this idea of how how to disrupt negative thoughts or assumptions. So you're basically utilizing your mind to combat these negative thoughts or these assumptions so that you are still leading towards actions and growth, and you're developing or learning something, right? Or you're moving on this path towards like what your positive values are and what your goals are, right? So the 4 things that he goes over to disrupt your negative thoughts, the first one is evidence. So like, what evidence or factual proof is there of this negative thought? So if I'm like, oh man, I'm a crappy, partner, I don't contribute, why am I thinking that? What proof do you have to this claim that you're making that you're not a contributing partner, right? So right there is something that combats the negative thoughts, because now in my mind that I'm using a tool to combat them. So it's like, okay, well, why do you think that? Well, I feel like, my partner's cooked dinner mostly this week and I haven't, right? Okay, well, what have you done, right? Because you're making this claim that you're a crappy partner because you didn't cook dinner, this week. But what is the actual truth? What is the evidence or the facts to back this up? And you're probably going to see, if you try that one, you're not going to have anything. There's not going to be any factual things. Or if there are, then it's like, okay, yeah, crap, I am a crappy partner. Let me go ahead and try to be better. Here's actions I'm going to take to be better. The next one is alternatives. So we've got evidence, and then we've got this alternatives, right? So what is the alternative to this negative thought that's happening? So if I feel like I'm not good at my job, what's an alternative, right? Well, I'm new to my job and I'm just learning, right? So maybe that's what's actually happening. It has nothing to do with my skill or potential. It's just the current situation, and I'm learning and I'm new. So I'm going to focus on that now. And that's the alternative, right? Is like, how can I close the knowledge gap to make sure that I am positively contributing and I'm not feeling like I'm a crappy employee? The next one is implication. So this one's getting a little deeper, right? So disrupting negative thoughts. What's the implication if I choose to believe what I'm thinking as truth? What is the implication if I choose to engage in this risk, right? So this one's directly related to this idea of risk versus reward, right? Because if I choose to roll with whatever the negative thought or assumption is, then that's going to become a part of my identity. That's going to become how I handle this experience going forward. It's going to become how I handle moving forward and trying to move past all of these obstacles and opportunities, right? And that's the implication. And then what's the alternative, right? So it's like, okay, well, I'm disrupting my negative thoughts. Here's evidence that shows it's not a negative thought, or here's an alternative that shows that it's a positive thought. What's the implication now of engaging with the positive thought? What's the implication of assuming this event's going to be a reward, right? That the potential on that front is going to outweigh the negative on this front. Always. It's always going to do that. But we as people need to take the time to pause and combat these negative thoughts. And the final one, kind of related to implication, is this idea of usefulness. So is what I'm thinking useful to what I'm trying to achieve? Is it useful to who I'm trying to be as a person? Is it actually benefiting the actions and the tasks that I have in front of me, or is it not, right? So these 4 things, evidence, alternatives, implications, and usefulness, are all tools that are available to us. It's just taking the time to pause and reflect about, is this actually worth it? Is this actually something that's happening? And if it's not, then what are all of the other outcomes that are a potential here? What else could I do to combat all of this?